Neeraj sir, over to you. We are live now.
Thank you so much, Amit. Thank you. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Neeraj Arora. I am Senior Director at SOCHM and looking after the SOCHM Rajasthan State Development Council. So, friends, we are coming up with a webinar on scope and aspects of renewable energy in Rajasthan. So, friends, this webinar is being organized by SOCHM Rajasthan State Development Council. And for the discussion, we have eminent speakers from industry, from government, and from professional sector. So starting with, we have with us our chief guest for the day, Mr. Suneet Mathurji. He is Director Technical, Rajasthan Renewable Energy Corporation Limited. And Dr. Ajay Detaji, he is Chairman, SOCHM Rajasthan State Development Council and Managing Director, Data Group of Industries. Architect Tushar Sogani ji, Co-Chairman, SOCHM Rajasthan State Development Council and Managing Director, Tushar Sogani Designs Private Limited. Architect Gaurav Agrawal ji, who is Chairman of SOCHM Rajasthan Committee on Environment, Water and Renewable Energy and Principal Architect, GADS and Associate Professor, Code VGU. We have with us speakers from industry, Ms. Ritu Lal, Senior Vice President and Head, External and Institutional Relationship, Amplus Solar. Mr. Abhilak Singh, Treasurer, Solar Energy Society of India. Mr. Ajay Mishra, General Manager, Marketing and Communications, Wari Group. Mr. Raghav Mittal, Co-Founder and CEO, Sun Alpha Energy. And we have with us Mr. Kushagra Juneja, Co-Chairman, SOCHM Rajasthan Committee on Environment, Water and Renewable Energy and Managing Partner, Design to Occupancy Services. So I'll not take much time and would like to invite our Chairman, SOCHM Rajasthan SDC, Dr. Ajay Deta, for the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Neeraj. Before I welcome everyone, I want to thank all of you to accept our invitation and become part of this maiden first event by this SOCHM SDC. A lot of people who are listening today, we are around 400 plus people, as I was told yesterday night, maybe more now. It's my duty as a chairman of the founding council here in Rajasthan to let all of you know a little bit about SOCHM. SOCHM is a very old chamber. In 1905, some people started gathering and thinking. In 1905, you can imagine around 100 years before, some people started thinking that there's a need of an association and organization which can research, we can guide, which can talk about and help each other in businesses and talk to the government, talk about policies. And the first event happened somewhere in 1920, if I am not wrong, in Calcutta, where this first maiden event happened. So exactly around 100 years before, this organization took its first event in January. And here we are, after 100 years, we are in Rajasthan holding our first event, and that is to a very important topic of a renewable energy. So let me thank all of you to accept our invitation to join in. I welcome you all wholeheartedly for the success of the event, and we deliberate our ideas, share our thoughts, and see that what could be is this event make a difference in people's life by making a policy, by looking at a new white paper, by looking at new research paper. We will just explore everything what is possible and listen all the experts of you. I am not an expert of renewable energy. I am the consumer of renewable energy and I take benefit of, but I definitely look forward to hear from everyone. And I'm sure the entire audience looking forward to take some benefit and also learn this new opportunities in our area. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajay Deta ji. Now I would request Architect Tushar Sogani ji. Tushar Sogani ji, over to you.
Am I audible? Okay. Good morning to all. I would really like to extend our warm welcome to our chief guest, Mr. Suneet Mathur, who has accepted our invitation for this first, as our president, Mr. Ajay Deta, who is leading SOCHM in Rajasthan, mentioned. So warm welcome to you from Team SOCHM, sir. Ajay Deta ji, I think under your dynamic leadership, we are going to do wonders in the coming years for SOCHM GEM. And we are here to discuss the scope and aspects of renewable energy in Rajasthan. So I extend my greetings to our speaker, Ms. Ritu Lal, Mr. Ajay Mishra, Mr. Raghav Mittal, Mr. Abhilak Singh, who is going to, share their views about renewable energy. And we are going to have a lot of take homes with us so that we can really work upon them. Architect Gaurav, who is a charming chairman of this committee, I hope that you will moderate the session and will have a lot of conclusions with us. Kushagra, kudos to you for doing such a wonderful this thing. And last but not the least, Neeraj, I think you've done a splendid job in integrating all of us. So friends, I think Rajasthan has always been a desert land. Earlier, investors and the people have been little less interested whenever we talk about our state. But now I think Rajasthan has found its hidden potential in the field of renewable energy. I think Mr. Mathur will agree with me. And the major aspects of renewable energy in Rajasthan are solar energy, wind energy, biomass, and our main generators of energy are wind and sun. And both in which we are abundance, in Rajasthan, and especially in the western part of Rajasthan, which we have already witnessed, that lot of people have come with innovative programs and innovative projects, and people have realized that western Rajasthan is one part of Rajasthan which has got a lot of potential. And as per the assessment of MNRE, that is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, I have just come to know that Rajasthan has a potential of 142 gigawatt of electric energy just from the solar energy. And till now, solar power plant of approximately 5,000 megawatt has already been commissioned in the state of Rajasthan. These are the figures up to December 2020. So friends, Rajasthan has a tremendous scope in the field of renewable energy. And solar energy has now become a new way of life. People are aware that our fossil fuels and dependency on them has to end now. As the investors have started pouring in more money in this field of energy, it's a clear demarcation that there is going to be a shift in the entire industry towards the renewable sources. Now, Rajasthan being a drier region has always been termed barren and unuseful. But soon, when the discovery of its potential towards the solar and wind energy came into picture, it turned into a boon, not only for its people, but also for India. The Renewable Energy Board has been a large job creator. Many live on daily wages through this industry and whatnot. Creating alternatives would be the key to the future living. And if you have alternative, you will be winner in the longer term. This is what renewable energy sources are all about. Friends, they give us an easy and never-ending supply of our needs. These sources are non-perishable, giving us never-ending happiness. There should be greater dependency on these types of energy, and the people should come forward to accept them. We can also promote renewable energy by creating a mandate for the industry, for the buildings, etc., in more adaptable way, so that the people are themselves motivated to use this energy on a larger view. I think in our building bylaws of Rajasthan, there has been a mandatory to use the solar panels, So lots of endeavor has been there by government of Rajasthan. And when the people like Mr. Mathur are with us, we hope lots of things are going to happen. So it is therefore very important to shift the focus from the perishable to the renewable sources so that we may have a very better future and a secure way of living. I think today this is what we are going to talk about. As Mr. Datta said, I am also not a right person to speak on this. So let us now throw the ball in the court of all the renowned speakers, the stalwarts. So I think we should start the show. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tushar Sogani ji, for the very energetic message. And friends, I would like to share with you, as mentioned by Tushar ji, SOCHM has a green building certification program. We call it GEM, Green and Eco-Friendly Movement. And this GEM Green Building Certification Program talks about the use of renewable energy resources. So thank you so much, Tushar ji, for putting emphasis on this. Now I would request our moderator for the day, Architect Gaurav Agrawal ji. As mentioned, Gaurav Agrawal ji is chairing the Committee of Environment, Water and Renewable Energy. So first of all, thank you, Agrawal ji, for initiating this and starting the webinar series in Rajasthan under SOCHM banner. So thank you so much and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thank for such a kind word. And I must thank our chairman Ajay Dataji and our co-chairman Tushar Sugani for showing and having confidence on me to be a part and to serve this association under this committee. Good morning, everyone. I, on behalf of SOCHM, Rajasthan State Development Council, and as a chairman of the Committee on Environment and Water and Renewable Energy, welcome you all. I welcome all the dignitaries and all the respected attendees present here. Today's topic, which is a need of time, and that's the scope and aspects of renewable energy in India. And of course, we sitting in Rajasthan have an extra edge to it. India's population is increasing at a very rapid pace and is expected to be the world's most populous country by 2025. India is currently facing huge energy demand. Although its energy production has expanded over the years, but population is also expanding at an alarming rate. And I think you all must be knowing that India has the 5th largest power generation portfolio, which is remarkable for us. And as a country, it's facing a huge energy crisis. There is a high need to tap the potential of renewable energy resources. And that's what I am saying. It's the need of the time. India is the 4th largest importer of oil, and I believe 6th largest importer for the petroleum product. Increase in the use of renewable resources will definitely reduce the dependency on expensive imported fossil fuels for sure. Economic growth, increasing prosperity, growing urbanization, and rising per capita energy consumption, along with the government's increasing role and their will definitely develop this cleaner fuel, I must say. So let's fasten our seatbelts and let's hear from the stalwarts of this field. Sunit sir, let's start with you. And I don't have a question for you. I would rather say, please support this statement which says scope and aspects of renewable energy in India.
Yeah.
Sunit sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gaurav Agrawal. And first of all, I would like to thank the SOCHM, Rajasthan Council, who have given me this opportunity to share my experience and share my views on renewable energy in the Rajasthan. Thank you very much. And all the dignitaries, those who are present here, and I think they are having their expertise in their particular fields. And definitely we will be, through this webinar, we will be able to learn something, or we have to conclude something concrete at the end of this webinar. And after that, I think it will be very much useful for all the developers as well as those who are supposed to do any type of businesses in this area. So they may have any opportunities, good opportunities rather, I should say that this is the only field. As Mr. Gaurav has already told, that renewable energy is basically, I think there is no need to mention here that ultimately the dependence on fossil fuels are to be diminished day by day. And this is the proper time that whether we will be able to catch all these some of the norms of the renewable energy, rather I should say that norms means in the sense that gradually we are adopting this renewable energy in our daily practices, daily routine practices. So that has to be now, I think, give a better pace, because without that, I think we will not be able to catch up those things. Because when the opportunity is there, then definitely we have to go with that. So, and this is also need not to say that very limited sources of fossil fuels are available, and ultimately energy requirements and needs are to be fulfilled with these limited sources of fuels. but renewable energy is now a very good option. And as you know that it is a very inexhaustive energy sources, so that we can, it is up to us only that how we can means go through this process of adoption of renewable energy in our daily routine life. Other aspects of some conventional energy, which is, I think, a very means reflect the bad aspect of that, that by burning the fossil fuels and when we are fulfilling our requirements of energy in daily routine, then definitely some high CO2 emissions are going in the environment, and they ultimately very much harmful to us. And what are the bad effects we have seen in this? But like sea rise, level rise is also one of that. And apart from that, only I think some medical issues are also there, which are imparting, I think, bad effect on the health hazard. That is also one of the bad aspect of the conventional energy. So ultimately, there is no need to say that why we should use the renewable energy. Next, as far as the scope is concerned, I think Mr. Neeraj Arora has already mentioned that solar, wind, and biomass is the only scope in which we can involve to adopt the renewable energy in our daily routine life for fulfilling our energy needs. So that is very important. So first of all, I think we should discuss about the solar energy. Solar energy, I think there are many aspects and there are many fields in this solar energy. I would like to mention here that first, I think utility size projects. Those generally we call it as a megawatt size projects. And nowadays, I think up to means with the solar, more than 6,000 megawatts have been installed in Rajasthan. And with this, I think Rajasthan is on the second position after Karnataka. And as far as wind is concerned, more than 4,300 megawatt have been installed in Rajasthan. Wind is because I think Rajasthan comes under the low to moderate category in comparison to, if we compare with this Rajasthan state with the coastal areas, then definitely they are having a better scope. They are having a better potential. They are having a very high potential in comparison to Rajasthan. Although nowadays there are different hub heights on which available wind potential is available. Nowadays, I think after 100 meter now, 150 meters are also being tested. That what is the potential of wind at that hub height of the 150 meters. So as far as 100 meter of wind hub height is concerned, the potential of Rajasthan is 1,27,000 megawatt. So that is, I think, almost it is a very good potential, and we should go for harnessing as well as to very ineffective way. As far as biomass is concerned, however, Rajasthan is having not a much biomass available in Rajasthan. So that's why 120 megawatt only has been so far established. And so I'm talking about the solar, that is the utility size projects. Utility size projects are basically having a 5 categories. That is, one is the sale of power to DISCOMs. And another is projects under MNRE scheme, because MNRE is also as a central ministry. They are having there some specific schemes for the development of the renewable energy in the different states. And third is solar for captive use. I think nowadays it is a very common category in which the solar energy is being developed. And fourth is projects for third party sale. It is also one of the category which comes under the utility size projects. And last, and which is most important, that large size solar parks. Solar parks are being developed. Solar parks are being developed in under 3 categories. First is that is a solar parks by RRECL. RRECL is a Rajasthan Renewable Energy Corporation from where I belong, and solar parks by private sector. That is another important category, and solar park by joint venture companies. So now I would like to share that solar for captive utilization, there are again three categories. Like within premises, you can set up this for your own utilization, means plant which are supposed to be utilized by the owner itself. And it is if having some larger size of premises, then definitely he can install that project in their premises. Second is outside the premises, which is again under the category of the solar for captive utilization. So plant can be installed outside the premises and power can be flowed to that particular premise. So that is also another category. Third is set up in the state for captive use and also outside Rajasthan through open access. Power plant can be installed in the state and the power can be transmitted through open access outside the Rajasthan state. So this is another one of the category. There are again three categories for project for third party sale. Third party sale means power can be sold to any party or any other client which has been identified by the power producer itself. So within premises of consumer, if any party who is interested to get installed a solar system in their premises, but he is not interested to maintain that plant, so he can ask some other firm, those who are interested to install the projects in their premises and to take all the responsibilities of the O&M of that plant. That is called RESCO model. RESCO model means that particular firm will operate and maintain that plant and supply the electricity to the consumer. Second is for sale of power within the state through open access. Within the state, they can identify the client and they can transmit that power through open access to the client, those who have been declared. For third category is for sale of power outside the state through open access. Means power, if your client is outside the state, then definitely they can go for that power transmission through open access outside the state also. So these are the different categories which can be considered under utility size projects, which is generally in megawatt size. Second category of solar, which is again a good area, that is solar rooftop. Rooftop is nowadays, it is a very good area and having a good scope also, rather, I should say. Again, there are two models. First is RESCO model. RESCO model means the companies, those who are interested to finance the projects, those who are interested to install the project with their own cost in the premises of the consumer. So in some government companies, we have also tried to introduce this model. Means if any on building, that can be private as well as government, as well as some institutional or any type of building. But there is a requirement for the development of the RESCO companies, renewable energy service companies. Basically, that is called under RESCO. So these are that type of buildings which can be, I think, to be promoted now. So those who are interested to install these solar rooftop projects on any type of building categories. Second is other category, that is, as you all know, that rooftop for the households, that is in the domestic sector. So that is very important, and so far as 369 megawatt has been established, not specific for domestic, but as a whole, means all the commercial areas, all the buildings, commercial buildings, those who have installed in the Rajasthan rooftop systems. So they have more than 369 megawatt capacity has been installed under this rooftop category. Third, and also a very good scope, that is of solar off-grid applications. Solar off-grid applications are means these are the applications with like solar pumps. These are comes under the off-grid applications. And the second is a standalone solar system for households. This is also a off-grid. And third category is solar grid, is small solar grids. With this, the electricity can be supplied to the rural areas where the electricity still is at some places which cannot be transmitted just because of the particular reason that if their areas comes under the forest areas, if there comes under means some geographical location, because of geographical location, we cannot be able to reach then those households which are cannot be tapped with that electricity. So then these particular applications are very much useful. Fourth category is decentralized grid connected solar projects. I think you might have heard about the Kusum scheme. Recently, it's a very, I think, a very good scheme for the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And in 19, they have started this. And so far, Rajasthan is the only state which have initiated in a very good manner. But due to some financial problems, which is not being, the finance is not available to the particular farmers, those who are interested to get that loan, because all the investments are supposed to be done by them. So that is also, again, a very good scheme. And with that, at the load point, the electricity can be generated there and that can be supplied at the nearest grid of the DISCOMs. So that is also a very good scheme, and through which some transmission and distribution losses can be reduced up to much extent. Some other last category is the new upcoming field of solar. That is very important, and there are two categories. That is renewable energy based EV charging stations. That is, as you know, that electric vehicles are again a very good field in this area. So we have tried to club this EV charging stations with the renewable energy. So if you can charge those means batteries or storage systems of the electric vehicles through renewable energy, that again reduce the load. It again reduces the load to the load of the electricity to the charging stations. And second category is solar with storage system. That is most important, and I would like to request you also that if you can, any type of through any scheme or through any activity from your some Rajasthan Development Council, you can do with this solar storage system, because it is a field of R&D right now, and day by day I think we are getting some good results also on that. And one day when definitely the solar storage problem will be solved, then definitely I think we will not be able to dependent on the thermal energy. That is most important. So I think that will be a big breakthrough in that area. Or I think on that very day, I think renewable energies need not to be, we have to promote, we have to means go for that some other options also. So these are the, I think, aspects which are related to solar. As far as wind is concerned, I think comparison to wind, I think solar is something having a good scope, much better scope. And as you all, I think Mr. Data has mentioned that 142 gigawatt is the scope for total potential of this Rajasthan state. So I think we have to try to harness as maximum as possible. So I think I should limit it to this that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And what a wonderful insight on the topic. And I must say that this is a kind of the way you have educated us with the theme appropriately into the scope and the aspects of renewable energy in India. Thank you so much, sir. I'll get back to you again.
Yeah.
So as you have rightly mentioned that right now solar is a thing which we are harnessing to the max. And I must say that India is blessed with huge potential for solar energy generation. And this is because probably of our geographical location that India is a tropical country which is having solar additions almost throughout the year. The country is rapidly emerging as the major manufacturing hub for solar power plant, and I believe that almost a dozen of states in India are working aggressively in this direction. So we all know about the merits of the solar power or the solar energy, but what about if I say the limitations in solar energy or the challenges we face in the solar energy? And I would wish to ask Mr. Raghav for this. Raghav, sir, if I ask you, what are the challenges or what are the limitations in solar energy? Because,
Sure, sir.
or you can say, what are the demerits of solar energy for that matter?
Well, as an evangelist of solar, it's very difficult to find out the demerits, but certainly there are challenges, and it's important to note down the challenges as well so that everybody works towards the solution as well together. But before I say anything further, thank you so much for inviting me, and a very good afternoon to GVS sir, Mathur sir, Data sir, all the senior dignitaries, directors from ASSOCHAM, my friends from the industry, and everybody who has joined in today. I am the co-founder and CEO of Sanalfa Energy. We are a full-service solar EPC developer in the state of Rajasthan. We have been present for almost 7 years in the industry and about 5 years in the state of Rajasthan. We cater largely to the commercial and industrial segment for all the power requirements. As Mathur sir specifically mentioned that the industry can use solar using multiple avenues which are available through the framework of policy which is there in Rajasthan since the beginning of solar, so-called since 2009-10 when the first solar policy in the country was brought to effect. Rajasthan has been at the forefront and the industry has lapped up on the opportunity as well. Before we move on to how the industry has utilized solar so far, and I'm sure there must be many people in the audience who must be looking forward to adopting solar if they have not already. So for their benefit also, we should touch upon, what are the practical ways in which they can use solar going forward. But as sir, you rightly mentioned, there are certain challenges as well. So a few of them which are very important to be noted. See, solar at the end of the day is highly dependent on the government policies. And till date, I can't believe anybody who wishes to go solar, whether at his residence or at his factory level, or even if they want to invest for long-term investment purposes, as I mentioned, third-party sale or sale to DISCOM is always an option available. But irrespective to what you wish to do in solar, at the end of the day, you depend on government policies. The government policy starts at the center, and then the state regulator then designs a state-specific policies. So the policy so far has been, I believe, it has been. I'm sure various stakeholders have their points of view, but the way I look at it as an optimist, I see that the policy has been very conducive. There have been challenges. Stakeholders have raised their voices, as that is the case in any industry that you may come from. But we believe that there could be slightly bit more political will in ensuring that renewable energy is actually the prime source, the first source of energy that anybody wishes. There is already a bill in the parliament being discussed where there's freedom to be given to the consumers as to so that they can choose which distribution company do they want to go for. Likewise, we'd like to see if there is more freedom in terms of what they can do in terms of renewable. When I say freedom, it comes to obviously policy level. There are certain restrictions. For example, third-party sale under open access has some prohibitive charges, which does not make it very commercially viable, so to say, as of today. I'm talking very specific to today's price points. I'm sure going forward, the regulator has in mind as to how to make it more conducive for the industry. So political will is definitely something that we find we could do better, slightly better in that term. All said and done, solar solar requires capex. So as sir rightly mentioned, Mathur sir, that there are companies which, and I'm sure there's Ritu ma'am is there on the panel as well, so she'd like to highlight on that as well as to what they are doing in terms of RESCO. But there is capital expenditure required upfront in solar projects, whether it is for self-consumption captive or you're supplying to anybody else. So solar is, so to say, a large capex, a large ticket size investment. Although I would also like to mention that the returns are fancy, which they were not until probably 4 or 5 years back. Today, solar has very attractive ROI, and that is a reason that we are seeing the demand pick up, over the last 3 to 5 years. Even during COVID period last year, we did not see the demand plummet at all. On the contrary, that the demand only went up. So we see that people are understanding the merits of solar. However, the large capex still remains a constraint. That said, the financial institutions have come forth in financing solar projects. Although project financing is something which is which we believe is continues to be a challenge in India. Then I believe it's more a mindset thing. Any new technology takes its own sweet time before it matures. So once you see people around you adopting to technology, you also start feeling left out, and then you want to ride the wave. So what we saw maybe up to 2017-18 is when the first movers were getting into solar. The S-curve of technology was taking up, where people were still starting with the expensive installations. However, they were the first movers, so they took advantage of that. But now we are seeing people whose mindsets are evolving, and they are now finally understanding that there are merits of solar. So mindset has been a problem as well, in terms of lack of knowledge of the available energy sources that you have around you. A certain trade barriers is something also that we have found that those trade barriers cause hiccups in the overall momentum. Talks regarding the implementation of custom duty or anti-dumping duty, overall trade deficit with China, etc., has always caused certain volatility in the market. But we believe that is a case for any industry, and we can always find pockets of opportunities even while these challenges are there. So yeah, back to you. These probably are the challenges, but as an optimist, I would like to believe there are opportunities as well around them.
Very truly said, Raghavji. And I must congratulate that you have speak very clearly and in a very simple way. I think every one of us has understood this point, and you have very truly said about the ROI, because that is a key which is actually attracting more and more people. And the other thing which you mentioned is the mindset of people. Yes, it is changing. It is definitely changing. And I must confess that I've been practicing since last 2 decades. Architecture, I'm practicing architecture in last 2 decades, and I've been installing these solar plants on the rooftops of my client's project, whereas I haven't installed it at my place. But fortunately, unfortunately, this Corona period has given me this opportunity. Okay, this is the right time. We should get it installed, because my bill of May and June last year was rupees 3,000 or 5,000 something, because there was no person to take the reading of from the meter. So it was given randomly, and eventually the bill of July month was 35,000, followed by 26,000 in the month of August. So they must have averaged it out, and that was a point when I decided, yes, I'm going to put a rooftop solar installation, and now I am a very happy person. I am paying rupees 0 since last 8 months. So Abhilaksh sir, my question to you, the next question is somewhat related to this, and as Sunit sir has said that rooftop solar installations is a craze these days. Sir, my question to you is, what is the future of rooftop solar installation in commercial sector in Rajasthan? Abhilaksh sir, because we know that the commercial sector is a big player in the industry. So what is the future you see? So you have to unmute yourself, sir.
Okay now?
Yeah, yes, Abhi. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this concern, I'll just draw attention to this 175,000 gigawatt program. So in that actually we know that it started from 100 gigawatt actually. So out of 100 gigawatt, 40 gigawatt is the from solar rooftop. So initially, everyone was I was also thinking, I have been in the solar industry or renewable industry for last more than 27 years. And so everyone was surprised whether it is possible or not. So coming to the point, see now, until unless we go for commercial and industrial, it is not possible to actually achieve this 40,000 megawatt of from this solar rooftop. This is very true. So then the more important is the little bit actually the DISCOM state, they have to change their policy. They have to amend the policy to suit the requirement of the industries and commercial sector. So if that is there, then definitely there is a lot of scope, because see now large industrial plots or means large buildings, the rooftop is actually free space. There is hardly anything can be done on the rooftop. So that actually installing the rooftop on the roofs, it is a nice thing actually. And I think see now university, when I was in EREDA 2 years back, so we have financed a lot of actually large size of the power plant, specifically in all four this railway stations, then Lucknow Metro, then I think one more metro we have financed. So actually, until unless we actually go for this commercial sector and industrial sector, it is not possible to achieve this 40,000 megawatt of the from this rooftop solar. So what I feel, yes, definitely there is a good scope. Only the what is required actually this policy support from the government and some incentives. Right now, actually the most DISCOMs, they are finding it like a loss of their revenue. So something actually a program can be designed in such a way that this DISCOM also should not lose their revenue, and as well as the industry also get benefited from the rooftop solar. Definitely this commercial and industrial sector is a far better, and I think a good future for this sector. Okay.
Yes, sir. Very rightly said. And there's a tremendous scope as far as these rooftop solar installations are considered. I would like to ask Mr. Ajay that would you like to comment something probably that when sun is not shining or when wind is not there, how do we receive energy from these sources?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thanks, Ashok, for arranging this webinar. Myself, Ajay, I represent Waaree Group. Waaree is India's largest solar panel manufacturer as of now. So we are the tier 1 manufacturers of solar panels. And we started off with 30 megawatts, and right now our capacity is 2 gigawatts. We're expanding it to 5 gigawatts, thanks to the government policies which are in place right now. And now talking about the solar, so the major challenge that solar faces right now is that sun shines during the daytime only. Nighttime it's not available. Okay, so we need to have something wherein the storage needs to be incorporated, and which is where the major shift is happening these days. Even some government tenders are coming up wherein solar has to be incorporated with the storage. Because what happens is if everything that is produced through solar directly goes to the grid, and with the kind of expansion that is happening, the grid becomes unstable, because during the daytime you try to do it through solar, but then the stability of grid is disturbed, because when you incorporate solar plus wind plus other renewable resources, so these are not stable sources of electricity. Stable source of electricity comes from the thermal power plants, where you get stabilized to a level. So what happens is the better option will be to have a smart grid which will be able to balance the energy, first thing, and secondly, if we have a storage system so that the energy could be utilized during the time when it is not available. So Apart from that, I really don't think there's any other challenge in terms of solar being the most efficient source and being the silent source and require the minimum maintenance and easily adaptable. This is the only source which is a silent source of energy. It just sits on your rooftop for next 25 years and keeps giving you the clean green energy. So now the challenge that I feel that the industry as such, or the way government of India has put up a huge target, and what is happening is the major chunk of the solar panels that are being coming to India are being imported from the neighboring country. Now, due to which what is happening is that we do have the market, but then we have done nothing to develop the manufacturing sector in solar. There's nothing been developed as of now to develop the manufacturing sector. The economies of scales have not happened. What is happening right now? We are importing 85% of the panels are being imported from the neighboring country. That is what you're giving out that kind of money to the foreign country. That kind of outflow is happening. So if the economies of scale happen, if the government supports, and what is happening right now is on the every raw material that has been imported for the solar panels, there is a duty being applicable. But there is no duty on the solar panels itself being imported. BCD would be allowed, BCD would be implemented down the line 9 months right now, and SGD is going away in the month of July. Now, during this 9 month span of time, Indian manufacturers are just left out. They have nothing to do because people won't be placing any orders. There is no trade barrier at all, and we are planning to expand. How will the expansion happen? If during this 9 month span of time, there is no barrier on the import of solar panels, even though when there were barriers, even though when there was safeguard duty implemented, still there was 85% being imported in India. And the total capacity that has been installed on a year-on-year basis is not more than 7 to 8 gigawatts. And Indian manufacturers have this running capacity of 10 gigawatts. So we are capable enough to supply and cater to the entire need of the country as of now. And another 5 gigawatts already in the stage of expansion. So the entire capacity will go somewhere around 20 gigawatts. But then during this entire span of time when there's nothing available, there wouldn't be, people will be at the brink of losing jobs. Because for this 9 months, Indian manufacturers will have no orders coming in. So government probably will have to look into those nitty-gritties wherein they support the manufacturers during this period of time. That is one thing. Secondly, even the PLI scheme that has come up and other schemes that have been floated out, if these things would have been done 4 years, 5 years before, then the manufacturing sector would have matured enough. And then we would have been able to do much of what is happening right now. The industry is not able to do research and development in terms of solar. Why they are not able to do? Because they are in the cutthroat competition with the Chinese players. Now, when you're in a cutthroat competition with the Chinese players, you are left with all those with a really small margins. You are looking for your own survival. And what is happening right now, whatever has been implemented out in the neighboring country, we try to imitate it over here. There is no R&D as such happening in the country. So once these policies are in place, once there is a visibility, there will be a lot more manufacturers who will be announcing their expansions and the capacities in India. And then probably we will become the manufacturing hub, and then we will have the complete infrastructure ecosystem wherein the raw materials will be manufactured in India only. Because right now what is happening, if there is a trade barrier on one product, or on the one part, suppose the government puts a trade barrier on the import of cells, what will the neighboring country do? They will start inflating the prices of ingots and wafers. At the wafer level, they will inflate the prices. So they take the profits over there, and their end product is cheaper only at the end of the day, and then they're competing with us. So we need to develop the complete ecosystem and the infrastructure. Then only the entire manufacturing sector will go, and then we'll truly become self-reliant. That Atmanirbhar Bharat will happen only when the manufacturing sector develops over time. We do have the potential. And solar has huge potential in India because we receive sun throughout the year. So that's what is my submission as a manufacturer.
Right, Ajayji, very truly said that we need to develop an entire ecosystem to support our needs. Ritu ma'am, my next question to you, and I would like to ask you, where does Rajasthan actually may stand on the solar energy production? What is our take into it?
Thank you very much. First of all, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Very much.
Thank you. And thank you for this very interesting webinar. And, the very fact that such an event is being hosted helps me answer one part of the question, because when you say, where does Rajasthan stand? There are many, many stakeholders in Rajasthan, right? And you are also a stakeholder as an industry association, right? As an architect, as an individual, as a firm, right? We are all stakeholders, and you're interested in the entire gamut of solar, from residential to what you can do on buildings, to what you can do for industry and other commercial setups, to utility scale, to, we talked about off-grid applications and solar plus storage, right? So obviously, looking at that and looking at the interest, Rajasthan stands on a very strong wicket, right? When I look at, even there was data presented here on capacity, it looks like over 1/5 of the country's solar is installed in Rajasthan. Because we saw the data, right, in one of these earlier presentations, that we had over 5,000 megawatts, which is what, 5 gigawatts, right? The country's solar today stands at 40 gigawatts. So, even in terms of how much solar has the state done, it stands very well. In terms of irradiation potential, right, which is basically how much sunlight is available, Rajasthan is blessed better than most of the rest of the country. In terms of potential, we saw that Rajasthan alone had a potential for over 100 gigawatts. So from all of those perspectives, of course, Rajasthan stands extremely well positioned. The questions, of course, that regulators and governments have always to look at, right, is a balanced approach. Yeah. In taking that balanced approach, sometimes the potential gets missed out. Yeah. But I can understand the need for that balanced approach. For example, the ecological aspects. It cannot be done away with. So if there is any, and that is not true just for Rajasthan, that will be true for any place that you set up. What is the impact, if there is at all an impact of setting something up in any particular land zone, or a very, very ecologically sensitive area, or an area which per se is all right. So if I'm talking utility scale, but if I have to create a transmission network, right, which then passes through ecologically sensitive area or forest land, which is very difficult to navigate, or mountains, all of those also become challenges, right? Then there are other issues. So, one of, and because I am from the sector of rooftop solar, the other challenge that state governments face is in this balance between allowing the proliferation of rooftop solar and its impact on the revenue of the distribution companies, right? Now, per se, rooftop solar has nothing to do that impacts distribution. Right? If in fact, if you look at it, it is sometimes very, very useful to distribution companies. When you set up solar on a rooftop, you don't have to add any transmission infrastructure. It works along with whatever is already existing, right? You don't need to acquire land. You don't actually have to look at the ecological footprint, because you're setting up on an existing site, an existing building, or near an existing building, right? Which is obviously not going to be in the middle of forest or ecologically sensitive zones. So those issues are not there. Maintenance and cleaning is so much easier. We talk of setting up solar in the desert, but then we have to build an infrastructure to clean those modules. If you're going to be cleaning modules with water, how does one get water into the desert? Then comes the other question which the governments have to ask themselves. Where is water more important? If you have to pipe water, the number one in that queue should be houses that need water, right? So those are other considerations that come in. So again, rooftop, again, you're setting up in an already built area. Chances are it's already going to have its own water system. So cleaning is easier. You don't have to send tankers into the desert, or, it is obviously not the right thing to do that when people have to walk 10 kilometers a day to fetch water on their heads. Here is a pipeline going all the way to the desert to clean solar modules. People do come first. So there are a lot of those other considerations that come in. There are a lot of losses that happen in transmission and distribution, right? Those losses don't happen when you do rooftop solar. So whatever is produced is consumed. There's very, very little loss. So 99% plus of the energy generated is utilized. There are no double-digit transmission distribution losses. So it works very well. It has a massive potential, but because and the reason it hinders the distribution companies' revenues is because of a very different legacy problem, of subsidies. I am not questioning the need for subsidy. Again, it's a government requirement. And yes, as a country, we have a lot of income disparity. Who am I to sit here and say, don't give subsidy to anybody, right? If the governments feel that there is a need for certain sections of society to be subsidized, so be it. But that decision is the government. That is not a distribution company's decision. Unfortunately, the way we implement it is that the distribution company is forced to sell subsidized electricity, right? And then they recover this as if, the losses that they have from that sale through what we call cross-subsidy surcharge, which they recover from industrial and commercial clients. Now, C&I segment is also where even the base tariff is the highest. Because as an entity, we in our country consider distribution a service. So it is not really a profit-making entity, but it is an entity which is supposed to provide a certain service, which is why, the amount of profits they can earn is also restricted, right? Now, when we make them suffer losses, and then the C&I segment is the only segment through which they can recover. Naturally, if you set up on a factory rooftop solar, and that consumer reduces the consumption by say 20% or 30%. Every unit of energy that they use less from the grid, the distribution companies' revenues suffer, their CSS collections suffer. So this becomes, like a win-lose scenario. And this is not sustainable. Because while solar is a requirement, clean energy is a requirement, let's face it, distribution is also a requirement, right? So we need to work together, and at the prices at which even rooftop is not generating at 2 rupees, 2 rupees 50 paisa. Very, very large rooftops would be generating at 3 rupees and something. And I'm not talking of, next year the prices will go up again. I'm looking at, a scenario when there is no import taxation, whether it is customs duty or whether it is a safeguard duty. We can generate at a little over 3 rupees. I'm talking of like 5 megawatt rooftops. But even if you have, industrial sized rooftops, all of them, and by and large now I think in most homes also, you'll be generating at anywhere. So I'm saying anywhere between 3 rupees 50 paisa, depending on the size of the rooftop, to maybe maximum about 5.5, 6 rupees a unit for generation, which is still cheaper than what the grid would be selling to. I don't even think homeowners get electricity at less than 6 rupees today. So commercially, it works. Now, what we need to do is ensure that the savings from rooftop solar generation are shared equitably between the rooftop owner, who will consume most of it, and the distribution company. Today, the distribution company is totally left out. Then they come with retaliatory measures, right? And they don't come with retaliatory measures. These measures come from regulators, right? So that also sometimes becomes imbalanced. There are certain places where you will find that per 1 unit of generation, the charges are totaling up to 4 rupees. That is also not fair, right? That's not a balanced view. That 1 rupee which is generating, even if it is going into net metering, it is not costing the distribution companies 4 rupees. So if we have an equitable sharing of savings, and there's various methods for doing that, I'll not get into it in detail right now because I think already I'm spending too long talking about it. It can be a win-win for everybody. And that is what we need to pitch at. It cannot be a vested interest group. It cannot be right now let DISCOM suffer because solar has to, this is a greater need. Everything has to be balanced out. And at the prices at which rooftop solar is generated, especially in the C&I segment, I think there is enough opportunity for that savings to be shared equitably. And as soon as you create a scenario that for every unit of solar generated in its territory, a distribution company actually makes money, why will they stop? So this is what the future is. So where does Rajasthan stand? Rajasthan stands very well poised. Obviously, it depends on what choices and decisions the state makes in going forward.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. And we feel very happy and blessed that Rajasthan is doing pretty good in this field. And Neeraj ji was sharing a news, I think 3 days back, about some. So what was that in the Madhya Pradesh? You were telling something about the price per unit.
Yes, so it was 2.46 rupees per kWh. What MP government was buying from the producers. So is this the cheapest
we
one
look
from
forward
all the
that-
states? Yeah.
Yeah, so we look forward that Rajasthan will be quite cheaper than that also. Let's see in future. It was lovely hearing all of you eminent speakers. Thank you so much for answering my questions, and I think my questions are generalized questions. I'll take a very quick second round, and I would wish ki every one of you please sum up your answer in a minute or two. Sunit sir, I think Sunit sir, yeah, Sunit sir is there. Sunit
Yes.
sir, just a quick question to you. What are the policy framework for the solar energy in Rajasthan? A very quick one, sir.
No, I think we should definitely last recent solar policy, which has been issued in December 19. So now, as from the discussions also, it came out that things are changing in a very fast manner. And definitely we are also experiencing some of the new things which are supposed to be introduced in this policies. So on those particular points, we are working now. So I think it will be very
Okay.
early to say anything about what are the
Right.
changes we are going to in that policy.
Mhm.
But definitely it is a process of learning by doing. So
Yes,
that
sir.
is very important, and ultimately we have to think. That is why the reason that of your first question that you have asked about me the challenges.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I pointed out that challenges are supposed to be given by the persons, those who are working in the circle as well as those who are outside from the circle. And definitely they feel more challenges, or they feel they will be able to give good feedback on that particular point. So that is why, and actually we are on that exercise, and all the policies which has been issued by the government, and definitely we are whatever means experience we are gaining from that particular policy provisions, then definitely we will be able to go for that exercise and to change that, or any type of convenience is considered, then definitely we will be going to introduce that. Thank you very much.
So hopefully we'll have some good news in near future.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Ajay ji, a very straight question to you. Does renewable energy create jobs? Ajay sir?
Sorry,
You
sir.
you have to unmute it. Yeah, Ajay sir. But my straight question to you, does renewable energy create jobs?
100%, sir. It creates jobs. And we ourselves are employing 2,500 people at 2 gigawatt factory that we are having right now. Waaree directly employs 2,500 people, and indirectly it's almost around 5,000 people. The employment is happening. Just imagine at the total scale how much it would be. And now my developer friends are there with me. They employ so many people out there for installation of solar plants. So there would be huge chunk of job that's been created through renewable energy. That's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Raghav sir, there's a question in the question and answer section. I'll just read it out from there. Give me a minute. It's been asked by Mridula ji. I have a query. Would the installation of large solar plant increases the temperature of the atmosphere, leading to global warming? This question is in relation to the installations on a very large areas.
No, so I think this is something that I believe even Ajay ji want to answer. Coming from the manufacturing side, he will need to answer this question more often. But as a developer, I can say that no, this appears more a myth than anything else. There is
Okay.
no science backing that the temperature of the area increases because of installation of solar panels.
Okay. Right. So probably it might be a myth or it might be a confusion, but nothing to worry. Thank you so much. Abhilakh sir, what are the tax incentives for solar energy for individuals in business? Sir, you have to
Tax-
unmute yourself, sir.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It is already unmuted.
Yes, sir.
See,
So I was
regarding
asking you about tax incentives. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Regarding this tax incentives, those are actually, see now, first of all, direct subsidy. So that is limited to 10 kilowatt, and that is also only in a this individual domestic sector. So that the quantity is first 3 kilowatt. 3 kilowatt, it is 40%, and thereafter 20% on remaining 7 kilowatt, and beyond 10 kilowatt there is no subsidy. So this is subsidy. Then you ask the tax incentive. Yes. There is tax holiday up to 10 years. 10 years. So 10 years on the operational income. So that is a big relief actually. And then another tax and incentive is this accelerated depreciation. So actually, when I joined IREDA at that time, it was 100%. Then it was reduced to
I think, sir, please have a sip of water.
so something. Actually, it seems something is happening in kitchen.
Yeah.
So actually, tax this 40% now accelerated depreciation benefit. So actually, that is also a big benefit. Of course, this 40% will not be available. Means only the existing company, not the this means IPP mode developers. So actually, this questions came when this large size of wind power project started way back in 2006-7. So then then it was actually suggested that some tax incentive, why it should not be available to IPP mode. At that time, then actually it was based on the America, US, some tax benefit was available, and this discussion actually started in 2001-2, and then it was concretized sometimes in 2008-9. That came into form of generation-based incentive. So initially, this generation-based incentive was for wind projects, and then one project only came up in a solar. That was we know already this I think 91 megawatt, and that 12 rupees incentive is still per unit is being given by IREDA through IREDA. Of course, it is a government money. So. And then this other tax benefit, excise duty, custom duty exemptions are already there. So of course, many exemptions are actually limited to domestic module suppliers. So it is not for imported. So these are some tax benefits available under this renewable energy sector.
Thank you, sir.
Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ritu ma'am, a last question to you. What should be the expected payback period for solar installations?
That will vary.
Yeah.
Depending on obviously the size of the plant, right? The cost of setting it up, and I mean, when 40% of duty comes in, that is likely to go up a little bit, right? But this plant size, even in the rooftop segment, you get economies of scale. So to set up 3 kilowatt versus when you set up a 20 kilowatt versus when you set up, say, 100, 500 megawatt, and then if you're setting up like 5 megawatts, there is different economies of scale that you get even in that segment, right? So the size matters, the input costs and the cost of setting up matter. There are some rooftops which are very challenging. You know, they may be at a great height, or they may have a very strange tilt angle, right?
Yeah.
So those things also add up to the cost. Then there are site-specific issues which impact generation. And a simple thing is, you know, how that building and its rooftop is aligned with respect to the geographical north-south. Because obviously generation is highest when the sunlight falls at 90 degrees on the module. Now, if the building is at, say, a 45-degree angle to the geographical north-south, that azimuth of 45 degrees will also lead to losses. In some cases, if I were to adjust for it, on a concrete rooftop, I can adjust for it, but I will lose capacity. And typically on these, prefabricated industrial roofs, if the building is aligned that way, the purlins are also aligned that way, right?
Right.
You kind of have to go along with that, and you have those kind of losses as well. Then sometimes there are micro geographical factors and environmental factors, particularly something dusty nearby, and all of those things impact generation. Of course, the amount of irradiation. So if you were to set up exactly the same thing in a Punjab and a Rajasthan, your generation numbers would be very different. You know, from 1600 per watt piece, it may just be 1200. That's the range. So even 1200 is a good number, you know. 1200 compared to many other parts of the world is a good number. It's just that compared to what we get in some parts of India and in Rajasthan, it's a lower number. So those things obviously get taken into account. So it is going to be a few years. Yeah. Now, whether that few is 5 or 10, maybe in a very unique condition of a small rooftop, it could be 12. But it pays back. It is very good investment. It will give you returns, and it will give you get these returns doing something positive. You know, typically to make an improvement into the environment, like to make any kind of green contribution, one has to stretch oneself and spend money, right?
Right.
Here is an example when you are able to make a green contribution while actually generating savings also for yourself. So that is the one, that's the win-win
situation. Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. We know that we all are enjoying this session, but time is always a constraint.
Yes.
Neeraj, I would request you that there are a few questions in the question and answer box. If someone can really copy them up, and we'll be able to answer these questions. So it will be quite beneficial for everyone. I think it's a time to wrap up, and I'll just wrap up by a few words. What we are taking us today with ourselves. So starting with Sunit sir, Sunit sir has very rightly said that it's high time for adoption of renewable energy in our lives, and potential of Rajasthan for wind energy harnessing is tremendous, apart from the solar which is already available to us throughout. And he has also spoken about on-site and off-site installation, and Rajasthan can play a very important role in off-site installations as well. Raghav Mitra sir has briefed us about the policies have been very conducive for the upliftment of harnessing energy from renewable resources. Moreover, commercial viability will be more affordable in coming future time. Abhilakh sir has narrated that a lot of scope for rooftop installation is there. We are already doing a lot of work in this direction, and need of policy support from government is a must now. Ajay Mishra ji has told us that need of storing solar or wind energy so that energy can be utilized later. So there is a remarkable need to develop an entire ecosystem for that purpose. And finally, Ritu ma'am has told that Rajasthan stands tall in solar energy production, and almost 1/5 of the total energy which is produced in India is through this state. That makes 20% of the total energy. And incentives should fall in place that will encourage the pace of installation and running mechanism. I think that is we all take from this webinar, from this interesting webinar, which is a need of time, the scope and aspects of renewable energy in India. Thank you all so much for being such a patient audience. And now I would request my dear friend and co-chairman of my committee, Mr. Kushagra Juneja, to give a vote of thanks and to do the honors to the speakers. Over to you, Kushagra.
Gaurav, thank you so much
Yeah.
for moderating it excellently. Really
Thank you,
enjoyed
Ritu
it.
ma'am.
Superb job.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, fellow panelists, for all your views. I know every time I attend a panel, I learn a lot from them. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
That's true.
Likewise. Thank
Yeah,
you, everybody.
it's all about sharing and sharing our knowledge and sharing our wisdom. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for talking to you. Thank you. I will look forward for such more.
Yeah. Kushagra ji, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Gaurav ji, for hosting a very wonderful first webinar. It was a very important session for all of us, since it was the first webinar of not only our Renewable Energy and Environment and Climate Change Council of Rajasthan State Development Council, but also of the entire council. It was one of the first events that we did. So thank you, Ajay ji, Ajay Data ji, for your blessings and support for this event. And I'm sure this is the first stepping stone in a list of many. We have already planned such webinars. Renewable energy is a very vast subject, and I'm sure one webinar is just a stepping stone in the entire series. There will be a lot more interesting events coming up. Thank you, Sunit sir. You have always been a guiding force in renewable energy efficiency measures in Rajasthan state. In fact, Sunit ji has been very, very active, and Rajasthan was the first state even to notify the Energy Conservation Building Code in entire country in his leadership. So his leadership is paramount since a couple of decades now, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be the chief guest for this August gathering. Thank you, speakers, Vilas sir, Raghav ji, Ritu ma'am, for being here with us, and always goes without saying, Neeraj ji, Amit ji, for your tireless support to this event. We'll keep looking forward to your patronage in the coming events, and we hope that with the guidance and vision of our supporting organizations, Tushar sir has been very, very supportive to all of us, not only in ASSOCHAM State Development Council, but also in the GEM Council nationwide. So thank you all for your support to this first event, and I'm sure with your blessings and guidance, we'll continue to do many more such events. Thank you all the participants. It would have been very difficult to organize such a good event, and 200 is a great number. We touched 250, 300 participants today. Indeed, great number and great encouragement from all of you. Thank you all, and look forward to seeing you in the next event.
Thank you, Gaurav
Bye.
ji.
Can we have a group photograph, please?
Yes.
Somebody needs
switch
to,
on.
and I
everyone to
request
switch on
Sunil
camera.
sir, Tarun ji, Shubhrat ji to please on their camera
Switch
so
on
that
their
we can have a smiling face photograph. Yeah, Tarun ji.
I think his internet is not, working
Acha.
fine. So, yes.
Okay.
So thank you so
Neeraj
much.
sir, you are doing this honor? Yeah, please.
Yes. Thank you. Done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So much, and have a nice day ahead.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Same to you. Bye.
हाँ जी, नीरज जी।